Hello, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. Thank you for being on the webinar today. We are going to be going over the NeighborWorks AmeriCorps VISTA program and the application process. My name is Debbie Wise, and I work for NeighborWorks, and I manage our VISTA program. And Sindra Kofeld, our VISTA leader, is on this webinar event, along with Tina Dunphy and Sarah Brady from the Ohio State office. I do want to make it clear that we are recording this webinar event, so I will be making the recording available on the member site afterwards, along with the PowerPoint presentation. So you could look for that probably as soon as tomorrow. So a few housekeeping things I want to clear up before we get started. We are on something called Zoom, the new platform for NeighborWorks for delivering webinars. And I want to make sure everybody is comfortable with the platform, because the way we're going to be taking questions for this webinar is through the Q&A feature. So look towards the bottom of your screen. I believe it's going to be on the bottom, but if not, it's the top. And find the top. It's at the top. It's at the bottom for me. Find the Q&A and open that. And if you don't mind, go ahead and just shoot us a quick hi, hello. I want to make sure the audio is coming through nicely and clearly, and you could hear me okay. Okay, great. Oh, there you go. Okay, so this is how we will be taking questions this afternoon. If you don't get your question answered, or you need a more in-depth response because you have a very particular question that might not be general for the whole audience, then feel free to email me afterwards and we can talk offline. But this is how you'll be submitting questions. You've got the hang of it throughout the webinar. As a reminder, applications are due in about 2 weeks. So that's going to be Friday, February 10th. So please keep that in mind. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce Sarah Brady from the Ohio State office, and she's going to be discussing the slides we're going through today and telling you a little bit about VISTA and what all is involved. Sarah?
Hello, everybody. As Debbie stated, my name is Sarah Brady, and I'm a program officer here in the Ohio State office. And I'm accompanied by my boss and your program officer, your corporation state representative, Tina Dunphy, who's the state director here in our office. And so hopefully through this presentation, Tina and I will give you information that will be helpful to you in better understanding the AmeriCorps VISTA program before we hand it over to Debbie to talk about specifics related to the NeighborWorks VISTA application process. So what we want to do today and cover today are several points. The first is we want to give you an understanding of what the AmeriCorps VISTA program is, and give you an understanding of what we expect with various VISTA sites for organizations who are interested in hosting the VISTA members. We also want to give you an overview of the NeighborWorks VISTA program so you can understand the history that the Corporation for National and Community Service has with the NeighborWorks organization and their VISTA program. We'll talk about some NeighborWorks program accomplishments, and then Debbie will dive into the NeighborWorks VISTA program application process, important dates and deadlines, and some important contact information through this process. We want you to feel supported, and we want you to have all of the information necessary to best manage your understanding of the project and your application when it is submitted through NeighborWorks. So welcome to all of you, and we look forward to hopefully working with many of you in the future as sub-site organizations for the VISTA program at NeighborWorks America. So what we're first going to start talking about is the Corporation for National and Community Service. I think it's important that anybody who's applying for corporation resources has a good understanding of all of the programs that exist within the corporation, because what you may find is that some of the programs that you hear about might make more sense for your organization than the AmeriCorps VISTA program. And so what we're going to do is give you a brief overview of a lot of the different resources that our agency has, so you can hopefully differentiate what resource might be best for you. So for starters, the Corporation for National and Community Service is a federal agency, and what we do is we essentially focus our energies on building the capacity of communities across the country, and we do that through our mission. Our mission is pretty simple, and you see it on the screen. It's to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement through service and volunteering. And we have several programs that engage community members on various levels, and our programs exist so that we can have a good cross-section of America involved in our various programs across the country. Our programs include Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, and the Social Innovation Fund. And to be very honest with you, we're going to talk a little bit about Senior Corps and talk a little bit about AmeriCorps, but my knowledge is pretty limited on the Social Innovation Fund. And so I would encourage you to do some research on the Social Innovation Fund if ever you find yourselves interested in looking at opportunities for having some social enterprises or other social type programming initiatives that are best practices within your community, and you're looking to leverage larger resources for those efforts. You'll definitely want to look at the Social Innovation Fund for that, and you can do so on our website at cns.gov. But rather than go into much detail about the Social Innovation Fund, I do want to delve more into our other programs that exist that really put the boots on the ground for organizations that can increase your capacity to better serve your communities. So we're going to talk about AmeriCorps here, and the focus today is obviously on AmeriCorps VISTA, but as I had mentioned before, we have three various streams of service within AmeriCorps, and what we sometimes find here at the state level in the Ohio State Office is that some organizations will approach us or even approach some of our intermediary projects like NeighborWorks and ask for full-time volunteers to serve with their organization. And once we get into deeper communication with those organizations, we learn that AmeriCorps VISTA, because it is so narrowly focused on one initiative, that VISTA may not be the right program for you. And so what we want to do today is give you some comfort level around these three programs so you can understand which resource might be best for you. So starting with AmeriCorps VISTA, the AmeriCorps VISTA program specifically focuses on poverty alleviation. And we do this through several avenues that focus specifically on building the capacity of organizations, building the capacity of local communities, and also basically providing some program development for various organizations within the community. Our VISTA members range from their activities, and we'll go into more detail about that when we talk more in depth about AmeriCorps VISTA in I believe the next slide. The AmeriCorps State program is different than AmeriCorps VISTA in that AmeriCorps State focuses on critical community needs that are truly defined by states and what the impacts are and the needs are for each individual state. Whereas, and I'll go back to this a lot, the AmeriCorps VISTA program is so specifically focused on poverty alleviation, we don't necessarily have the ability to have programs that may focus on a community need that's related to nature. But AmeriCorps State and National, because that might be a specific need for, let's say, a state like Maine, they are able to better provide resources to organizations that have community needs outside of specifically poverty alleviation. Another one of our programs that is, I feel, underutilized but can have a profound impact on a local community is the AmeriCorps NCCC program, which stands for National Community Civilian Corps. This particular program, although heavily focused on disaster response, it can provide some significant impacts to local communities or local organizations that are trying to have one specific focused project completed in a short period of time. Some examples of what NCCC does for organizations is if your organization was in the process of developing or building out a homeless shelter for local community members who are homeless, but you don't have necessarily appropriate space for that homeless shelter. Perhaps you have a church in your local community that's been abandoned that needs to be converted to be a homeless shelter. An NCCC team can come and focus on converting the building into a building that can handle the capacity of a homeless population, and they may convert various rooms into housing rooms for individuals who are homeless. They may help work on converting a kitchen in a church into a kitchen that can provide meals to a large group of people on a daily basis. So the AmeriCorps NCCC teams can come out to your organization and serve for a 3 to 6 week period of time and essentially transform your community in various ways so that you can have a larger capacity to serve those in need. Now, with that being said, of these 3 programs, again, we're going to focus on VISTA today because that's what we administer here out of our office. There is some opportunity for these programs to intersect when you are looking at the AmeriCorps VISTA program. You may want to utilize AmeriCorps VISTA members to develop new programming in your community, and you need to pilot that new programming. That's where you might want to intersect with AmeriCorps State and AmeriCorps NCCC programs because they do have the capacity to provide direct service, and they do have the capacity to transform space or provide very intensive supports to various communities at different points within your programming with VISTA. So what we want to do, again, is focus on the mission of VISTA. The mission of VISTA, and actually it's not a mission, it's our core principles, if you will. We're focused on building the capacity of nonprofit organizations with a very specific focus on poverty alleviation. So when you hear about the VISTA program, or when you have encountered the VISTA program, whether it's through your community leaders or whether it's through WIs or other NeighborWorks staff, those staff have probably emphasized the fact that AmeriCorps VISTA members can come in and work on our various core principles, which include building the capacity of your organization, empowering communities, creating sustainable solutions. But what we want to always remind organizations of who are interested in considering applying for the VISTA resource is that although you may be working on building the capacity of and empowering your community, the emphasis and the focus should always be through the alleviation of poverty within your local community. And so we use a lot of buzzwords at the corporation, and I don't necessarily think there's any dictionary that spells out corporation language. So I say that because people often ask us, what do you mean by building the capacity, and what do you mean by creating sustainable solutions? And my quick answer to that is, that's a great question, and I wish I had a solid response for you. But generally speaking, when we are working with our sponsors who manage the AmeriCorps VISTA program, we're looking to ensure that when the VISTA members come into your organization, that they're essentially expanding your organization's ability to serve a larger clientele through programming, or maybe even developing brand new programs that don't exist that your clientele may benefit from. In regards to creating sustainable solutions, I just had a conversation with a lot of VISTA supervisors recently in which we discussed the term sustainability through the lens of environmentalists. And environmentalists, when they're talking and speaking about sustainability, is they're speaking about creating an atmosphere and an environment where we can essentially continue the production of, or make sure that what we have currently environmentally still exists in 30 years. And so with that being said, because our focus is poverty alleviation, what we want to focus on with our VISTA efforts is that whatever capacity you are building, whatever programs you are building, we can come back to your community in 30 years and see the effects of those programs and those programs still in existence to bring people out of poverty. Obviously, the best solution is that people in 30 years aren't in poverty, but we have to be realistic also and just acknowledge that poverty will probably exist in 30 years, and hopefully your VISTA program will also exist to continue supporting those individuals who are working their way out of that situation. So what we want to do is show you here very quickly a map, if you will, or the organizational structure of the Corporation for National and Community Service and our various programs. So you'll see up at the top, the Corporation for National and Community Service is the federal agency, as I mentioned before. We get federal funds to support the Senior Corps Program, AmeriCorps Program, and Social Innovation Fund. Senior Corps Program has 3 programs within it, our RSVP program, Senior Companion, and FGP program. And if you receive the VISTA resource, we'll go into more details in future trainings on how Senior Corps can support you. We're going to, again, focus on the AmeriCorps side of things. The AmeriCorps program has, as I mentioned, NCCC, VISTA, State, and National. Now, with the VISTA program, there are various program operations and methods in which programs are funded across the country. And all projects are funded essentially through a state office. Every state across the country has a state office. Well, I shouldn't say every state. Most states across the country have a state office, and then we essentially grant out our funds to various organizations who then host VISTA members at their organizations or through partnering organizations. And so what you'll see here on the left-hand side of your screen is the structure of a VISTA project in which an organization applies to host VISTA with us, and then we place several VISTA members within that one singular organization. On the right-hand side of the screen, what you see is what we like to call an intermediary organization. We here in the Ohio State Office really enjoy intermediary sponsorship because when we have an intermediary organization, what you see here is one large organization applies to us for VISTA resources and then says to us, we're going to turn around and place VISTA members at several organizations across the state, or in the case of NeighborWorks, across the country, so that a large network of organizations can benefit from this resource without necessarily having the administrative burden of working directly with the Corporation for National and Community Service. NeighborWorks especially is a great organization for this type of stretch because they do have such a large network across the country, and what they are basically doing is providing a service to you so that you do not have to reach out to your individual state office for the VISTA resource, but can apply for the VISTA resource directly through NeighborWorks America, and then they essentially are cutting out the need for 50 state offices, or excuse me, I should say 48 state offices from having individual relationships with NeighborWorks affiliates across the country. And so if you look at the sponsoring organization structure on the right-hand side of the screen as it relates to intermediaries, NeighborWorks America is the intermediary, and by going through this application process with NeighborWorks America, basically you are applying for the VISTA resource directly from them, and they will be awarding the VISTA resource based on community need. Within each organization, which we call sub-sites, there are designated supervisors at each site, which you'll see here. That's what this orange person is right in the middle of this structure. And then at the bottom, you'll see that each of those supervisors and sites essentially manage VISTA members. So you'll see that some organizations might have one VISTA member through the intermediary organization, some might have two, and some organizations even have more through the intermediary model. However, that's always dependent on how the intermediary sets up the structure for managing their VISTA resource. So hopefully that gives you a good idea as to why we here at the corporation are talking with you through the NeighborWorks America VISTA project technical assistance call. We're simply the funders of a project who are then going to be responsible for administering a large grant with several members across the country. So that being said, who are VISTA members? And there are a lot of things that we talk internally about in our office that I think are important to also mention when we talk about who VISTA members are. But the basics are that VISTA members are at least 18 years of age. We do not have any age limits, upper age limits for our program. And so that creates a very diverse field of individuals who participate in the VISTA program. We have individuals who are straight out of college looking to have their first professional experience. And we have VISTA members who are full of wisdom and in retirement and are interested in continuing their career in a meaningful way beyond retirement. So we have a great cross-section of individuals who participate in our program. Our VISTA members are U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents. So we do have the ability to allow legal permanent residents to participate in our program and U.S. citizens. And this is an important distinction to make here, especially because NeighborWorks America has a history of including individuals who are legal permanent residents, maybe not necessarily U.S. citizens. I don't want you to feel as though an applicant is not eligible for service simply because they are not a U.S. citizen. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions about who is eligible, Debbie Wise at NeighborWorks America would certainly be happy to answer those questions. All of our VISTA applicants and participants do have to pass a criminal history review. I won't go into details about that right now because once you're awarded the VISTA resource, we'll talk about what that means. But essentially, people who participate in the VISTA program have to be qualified and must meet the requirements of your organization as it relates to past criminal history. And there are some disqualifiers for service for the VISTA members nationally, but those are so stringent, it's highly unlikely that you would have a candidate that falls within those categories. So again, we'll leave that for later, but just know that we are vetting all of our VISTA members with a criminal history check. VISTA members, and this is an important feature, all VISTA members must meet the knowledge, skill, and ability requirements that are set by your organization. When you are a VISTA sponsor, so NeighborWorks America is saying, we're going to take care of working on the recruitment process for VISTA members. Now, what intermediaries do is then they assign that responsibility to all of the sub-sites. And I make this distinction because I want you to know that the corporation does not have VISTA members sitting in the wings waiting to just be assigned to your organization, nor does NeighborWorks America. So they don't have a set group of people who they are just going to assign your organization. You are going to have the latitude to do a significant recruitment effort within your local communities and even nationally to identify who is going to best fit in with your organization, both skill-wise and fit in with the culture of your organization as well. A couple of other points about who VISTA members are. VISTA members are individuals who are willing to spend a year giving back to local communities, and they are serving full-time at your organization in an effort to help your organization with poverty alleviation. And so they are making a one-year commitment to serve with you so that they can essentially help bring people out of poverty. We don't expect anybody to be able to serve in a full-time capacity without some benefits. And so the corporation provides several benefits to organizations that include, to the VISTA members, and they include the living allowance, they include the education award, which members receive at the end of their service term, or a cash stipend for their service. Members receive professional development, healthcare benefits, child care benefits. Housing assistance is an optional benefit that your site can provide to VISTA members. So keep that in mind. It's not something that we require you to provide to VISTA members, but if you have the capacity to provide some housing assistance, you are surely welcome to do so. You are also required to provide mileage reimbursement for VISTA members for their service-related travel. So as sponsors, and we'll talk about that in a future slide, you are going to be responsible for providing travel reimbursement if you are going to have members travel significantly as part of their assignment. And then if members are successful at completing their service, they are eligible for what's called non-competitive eligibility for federal employment, which allows them to access federal employment a bit easier than the regular civilian. And so we have some resources for VISTA members and VISTA alumni so they can learn more about navigating that process. The VISTA program cycle is one that is important for you to understand. Because the VISTA resource is limited and it is based on federal appropriations, we are trying to do diligence with the resource and make sure as many organizations can have access to the resource as possible. And because the VISTA program is about building the capacity of and developing sustainability of organizations, we are limiting the amount of years that organizations host VISTA members. A typical cycle for a VISTA program at a site is about 3 years. Now, NeighborWorks America recognizes that some organizations come into the application pool for NeighborWorks already having programs set up and maybe only needing to develop the resources to get programs off the ground. And so they will look at organizations who are interested in only having the VISTA resource for 1 year. Now, Debbie will talk about this later, but it's important to note that although we sometimes award VISTA projects for 3 years, it is still a requirement that everybody applies on an annual basis for the VISTA resource, because we want to, A, make sure that the VISTA member is utilized properly, and 2, we want to make sure that the VISTA member and the VISTA site is best able to manage the VISTA member. So we want to be sure that the VISTA activities are appropriate and that the utilization of the VISTA members is best. And so Debbie, in her process, will be doing site visits with awarded organizations in the future to make sure that the organizations are best utilizing and managing their members. With that being said, we always are telling our projects, and this is language we've been using for years, that when you are applying for the VISTA resource, you should really be considering what the end result will be of your VISTA project, so that you are beginning your project understanding what you want to get out of it, because that will best define and best help you understand what activities need to be done on an annual basis for your VISTA members to be successful. And so if you look at this visual on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that with the VISTA resource, we are expecting you to identify your objectives with your project, understand the activities, create a project timeline, apply annually like I had mentioned before, and reach sustainability. Now, I will say that sometimes, and if I could show you this, sometimes you're not going to reach sustainability, nor do we expect you to reach sustainability in 1 year. The apply annually is going to take you up here to identifying the objectives, and so you will be revisiting your objectives on an annual basis to ensure that you're on track to meeting those. So we're going to move forward and take a look at the VISTA sub-site supervisor requirements. And like Debbie said earlier, this is a new platform for us, and so I wrote that arrow on the screen. I do not know how to get rid of it, so we're going to leave it there for right now and just talk about some of the sub-site supervisor requirements. As sub-sites, there are certain things that you must be willing to do, which include recruiting VISTA members, attending attending sponsor orientation, and that orientation Debbie will talk about later on. You'll also be providing all of your VISTA members on-site VISTA training so that VISTA members can successfully perform duties within your organization and understand your organization's requirements and policies. You also will be providing daily supervision of members, workspace, performance updates, and you'll also be reporting out on programming progress. The other couple of things that we inserted in here and will be in the PowerPoint, the final PowerPoint that Debbie has, is as sub-site supervisors, you are also required to provide travel reimbursement for members for their assignment-related service. Travel, rather. So for any assignment-related travel that you are sending your members out on, you must be providing travel reimbursement. So keep that in mind, as I know Debbie will have you considering your budgets when you apply for the VISTA resource through NeighborWorks America. As far as supervisor orientation, we know that this year our projected supervisor orientation will be held for NeighborWorks America and many other VISTA supervisors across the country from June 27th to 30th in Columbus, Ohio. This orientation is a great opportunity for you to learn more about the constructs of VISTA, understand a lot of recruitment techniques so that you can best recruit your VISTA members, and get a very in-depth view of the operations of the VISTA program overall. For this particular training, new this year, if you've been a site in the past, the Corporation for National and Community Service will be covering the cost of your attendance at this training, including travel, training materials, meals, etc. There may be some expenses incurred by you individually, and we will not cover those expenses, but we will provide meals to you. We will provide training materials and lodging and travel. There are several VISTA resources, and those VISTA resources that exist that might be helpful to you and your VISTA projects are our VISTA member handbook, our National Service Knowledge Network, our VISTA Campus, which again will be in the next, the PowerPoint that we send to Debbie for final distribution if you so choose to get that PowerPoint. We also have trainings on what terms, conditions, and benefits are available to members, the corporation's website, and the supervisor manual. What you will notice here is that 3 of the resources that are identified on this page, the VISTA member handbook, the terms, conditions, and benefits, and the supervisor manual, are all on our VISTA campus. And so that is going to be one of your most valued resources when you are applying for and if you are selected to host VISTA members, because it will give you all of the pertinent information to best manage your VISTA project. So we're now into the NeighborWorks VISTA program overview, and I wanted to, before we move into this and before Debbie moves into this, I do see a question in the chat, and the question is this for all supervisors or just new? And I presume you're wondering if this presentation is for all VISTA supervisors or just new
Supervisor training.
Oh, maybe you mean the supervisor orientation. And that is a good question. So we're going to go with that. Ashley, thank you for the clarification. And the answer is that the supervisor orientation that will be hosted here in Columbus is for new supervisors. So NWOs who are receiving the VISTA resource for the first time or have a brand new staff member managing the VISTA resource. Hopefully that is helpful to you. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Debbie so that Debbie can talk about the NeighborWorks AmeriCorps VISTA program. And she will then go into details about the application process. So Debbie, it's all, I'll hand it over to you now.
Great, thank you, Sarah, appreciate that. So many of you on the call, and I recognize some of your names, who are currently in the program or have previously been in the program. You may recall we started our partnership with the corporation back in 2009, which was the first year that we launched the NeighborWorks VISTA program. So all these years later, we are currently in our 8th year, and we are heading into year 9, which spans the 2017-18 program year. So I'm already saying 2018. We plan early, and for those of you that have been through this process before, you know that the application comes out around January every year, and VISTAs get placed, boots on the ground in summer. This year will be August, specifically August 28th. And as of today, we currently have 68 VISTA members serving across the country at 38 various NeighborWorks organizations. Hey, Sarah, you can move on to the next slide. Thanks. So just a little review in history. I just want to give you a quick idea of the impacts and the accomplishments that the program has had nationally. And we have a lot more of this information on the NeighborWorks public site. So if you'd like to see more, you can go to neighborworks.org and navigate to the VISTA page. But just to give you a sense, our NeighborWorks VISTAs collectively have raised actually a little over $41 million since 2009 when we implemented the program. And our VISTAs have recruited or assisted in recruiting over 53,000 volunteers. And those volunteers have put in over 364 hours, volunteer hours. So as you can see, collectively, we make a big impact. And that's all due to the great work that you all are doing, managing your projects and managing the VISTAs, and of course, the great work that the VISTA members do for your organizations. So some of the program benefits to being in the NeighborWorks VISTA program. So when Sarah was talking earlier how there's a whole another setup where an organization can apply directly to a CNCS state office as opposed to going through an intermediary like NeighborWorks, those programs wouldn't necessarily have any of these benefits. So this is the benefit of working with and through NeighborWorks to apply for VISTA resources. So these are in no particular order, but for those of you that are familiar with the program, you know that you get one NeighborWorks Training Institute slot per VISTA. And these slots work just like staff slots. So you can send your VISTA member to one NTI, and we encourage everybody to always send their VISTA member to the December NTI, and that'll be held this year, 2017, in DC. And that is because we offer a workshop and some programming. We like to get all of the NeighborWorks VISTA members together because it's probably the only time we can get them all together during the entire program year because they're all across the country. So you get awarded one slot to be used for your VISTA. And like I said, they work like staff slots, so there are some associated costs, but for the most part, it's a heavily discounted tuition, lodging, and travel to send your VISTA to an NTI slot. And more importantly, this is great professional development for your VISTA, and it satisfies the in-service training requirement that CNCF places on the program. So it is your responsibility to offer some level of training to your VISTA members. And like I said, sending them to an NTI will satisfy that requirement. Your VISTA members also receive free unlimited e-learning. NeighborWorks offers different types of online learning, and we have a category, just what we call e-learning, and these are self-directed courses, and they are valued at approximately $200 a course. So your VISTA members get to access those courses for free throughout the term of their service. Again, that's great professional development for your VISTAs. Now, working with an intermediary like NeighborWorks, we offer you program coordination and support. So you deal directly with us. You work mainly with me and with our VISTA leader when you need support. And then NeighborWorks also does all of the report coordination on your behalf. So you report to NeighborWorks. You don't report directly to CNCF. And we aggregate and we compile and we report to CNCF on your behalf. So we take care of all that. There's a lot goes on in the background and behind the scenes that we handle for you. And then we also provide quite a bit of technical assistance from Sindra and myself, and then also from subject matter experts. And these are staff at NeighborWorks that are available to you and your VISTA members to help with their projects and any questions they might have about things they're trying to implement. And this slide here, if you look at the pie graph, you can see just what kind of impact the program has been having both on our NeighborWorks organizations and on the VISTA members themselves. So we've compiled this data going back to 2009, and our site supervisors are telling us that their VISTA members are making a significant contribution to their program goals. And as you can see, the VISTA members themselves are saying the same thing, and that their service here is meaningful and rewarding. And so really, that's actually, a big kudos to all the work that you do, because in order for a VISTA to have a fantastic program year, you need to be managing a strong project and be an excellent supervisor. So for that, I thank all of you, because those are amazing statistics. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the application process. And first and foremost, what you want to do, if you have not already done it, is read through the instructions. It might take you a good 15, 20 minutes, but it'll be well worth it. Those instructions are very detailed on how best to fill out that application. And we actually answer every single question in the instructions. So every question that we ask you, online in order to fill out the RFP, we provide a sample answer. And we do that because we want to give you a sense of the level of detail that we are looking for in a quality application. So please, first and foremost, read through the instructions and then read through every question. You really want to think through this and get your answers together and do all of that offline first. The application will take you several hours to complete. So you want to do that offline. So when it comes time to click through the online application, all you need to do is copy and paste. Now, we, as well as the corporation, like to follow something called the ARC rule. So you want it to be accurate, relevant, concise, and clear. And I'm emphasizing concise. We do get a number of applications, and we do have a panel, a number of reviewers on the panel. So if you tend to be overly wordy or provide more information that isn't necessary, keep in mind that these reviewers are looking through a lot of applications. So please keep it very concise but relevant. Answer every question. And again, applications are due in 2 weeks, and that's going to be on Friday, February 10th. So what are we looking for exactly in these applications? We want to see a realistic effort that helps bring individuals and families out of poverty. All roads lead to poverty alleviation, like Sarah was saying. You need to make that connection back to poverty alleviation with whatever project you are proposing. And it's very important that VISTA members are building permanent infrastructure within your organization. So permanent in the sense that you have a sustainability plan in mind. And we are going to ask you for some targets. So whatever your proposed project results are, you want them to be measurable in such a way that they show us the impact that this project is having on the communities being served. So you do need to estimate some project targets in the application. So that's why I'm saying to you, read the questions first, do your estimations offline, and then come online and submit your application. Really be thoughtful and specific. The best applications are when you take, some good time to think through it. And that might involve meeting with partners or other staff in your organization. So that can take a little bit of time. So if you haven't gotten started, you've got a solid 2 weeks to really get on that. Reviewers are looking for applications that show you have a solid understanding of the VISTA mission and that the activities that you list in your application for your VISTA members are capacity building and that you've thought through your sustainability plan. And keep in mind poverty alleviation. And so what we're looking at now in this slide is the NeighborWorks America focus area, which is economic opportunity. And under economic opportunity falls financial literacy, housing, and employment. So that means that your proposed VISTA project should fall squarely under one, if not more, of these 3 bucket areas under economic opportunity. So let me give you an example of what's not a VISTA project. We would not consider a proposal for a NeighborWorks green designation to be a VISTA project. We would not consider a proposal for a historical preservation of a building or two in your community a VISTA project. You really need to align the project with poverty alleviation through this focus, through this economic opportunity focus. So please keep that in mind. If you have any questions, certainly send them my way. And these are the important dates, and these are plastered all over the application, the instructions, the member site, and here, right in front of you, the February 10th, applications are due. You will hear from NeighborWorks the week of April 24th, whether or not you've been accepted into the program and how many VISTAs you received. Not all organizations that apply for VISTAs will necessarily get them. And we are looking at applications based on project. So you may be applying for 2 VISTAs, and it's possible you might only get awarded 1. And you will find out the week of April 24th. That's also the same week you want to start recruiting. You don't want to wait. You really want to jump on that. Don't procrastinate. The great thing about spending the time up front on your application is that in there, we ask you for your recruiting plan. We also ask you for some information that's going to talk about what you're going to put in your job description and list all your activities. So when it does come time to recruit, you've already thought through that, and you could just refer to your application and pull from that. So you could hit the ground running the week of April 24th. And then, as Sarah was saying, there's a supervisor orientation in June, and that is for new supervisors. And then VISTA members, NeighborWorks VISTA members will begin service at your site on August 28th. And some final reminders, just to really consider carefully if what you are proposing is a VISTA project, and if you have the capacity to host not only that project, but the VISTA. You want to make sure that you select someone on staff with strong supervisory skills that is able to be a mentor and a coach to that VISTA. As I mentioned, not every application will be accepted. That's based on strength of application, competition, and then of course, resources that are available. And then also NWOs that have a satisfactory rating or higher are all eligible to apply. And then this is our NeighborWorks VISTA team. That's Cinder and I in the photo. Of course, you can see me here live. And then on the CMCS side, we've listed Tina's information as well as Sarah's. So I see we have a few questions that have come through the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and go through these. Will this presentation be available after the webinar? Yes. It will be available along with the PowerPoint. I'll be posting that on the member site on the AmeriCorps VISTA page. I believe I have a means to capture all your email addresses for those of you that have logged on to the Zoom webinar. So I could also send the link to the recording out via email. Okay, another question. Is February 10th also the due date to re-up for an additional 3 years? Yeah, February 10th is the application due date for everybody, regardless if this is a new project or you're asking to continue an existing project. Same application, same due date. Do you know which year we are in? Do you know which year we are in the economic opportunity guiding theme? Okay, Elena, we might have to chat offline because I'm not quite sure I know what you're getting at with that question. So let's chat offline about that. And then the application question document also identifies evaluation. Great. Evaluation and measurement is a potential focus area. So I'm glad you brought that up. So often we might, there are some projects that ask for VISTAs to evaluate a particular program that they're offering in their organization. And if that's something that you're interested in, you can apply for a VISTA that falls under the measurement and evaluation category, but you also want to link it to if that program falls under housing, financial, fitness, or our third category that is escaping me at the moment.
Development.
Under economic development.
Financial literacy.
Did I say financial literacy? I think I did. Well, in any case, yes, you can apply for VISTAs in the evaluation and measurement category. You also don't have to limit that to just a program. So you can think organization-wide. If you are going to institute something whereby you want to have a sense of how your organization handles measurement and evaluation agency-wide, that's also another opportunity for you to apply for a VISTA. And we could talk offline about that. If you have specific questions on how to present that project, then just please email me. Can you review our application offline? I'm happy to answer questions about, if you have specific questions about your application. We are not in a position to review full entire applications offline, only because that would take a lot of time. But yeah, if you have, specific questions here and there, then yeah, absolutely, just call or email, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. Okay. So I've gone through all the questions that have come through online. So if there's anything else people can think of, please go ahead and submit your question online. And keep in mind, we do have Sarah and Tina on the webinar. So if there's something you'd like to direct to them, this is a great opportunity. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we have a question that has come in about the final date allowed to recruit. That information, those important dates will come out around the time you hear from us whether or not you're accepted into the program. So what I'm talking about is after you've been accepted into the program, there's a number of weeks you have to launch your recruitment effort and to conduct all your interviews, make your final selection, and then recommend a VISTA candidate. It'll be roughly a 7-week period. So after you've been accepted into the program, you will hear from me and you'll get a number of dates from me saying by this date you want to have submitted your VISTA assignment description. By this date you want to have submitted your service opportunity. And by this date, you need to have made your final selection and get all your enrollment paperwork into me. So those dates will be advertised, and you'll get a list of what they are after you've been accepted into the program. So they have not been defined just yet. Was there funds? Oh, I'm sorry. You took that question away, Sarah. I think it says something about funds to go to supervisor training, and yes. So in the past few years, you may recall you have had to pay for your travel and your lodging to attend the supervisor training. So this year, the corporation will be covering all those major expenses. So new supervisors will be required to go to that training in June in Columbus, Ohio, and the corporation will be covering the majority of all those costs. Okay. Okay, so I'm reading a question right now from T. Collins, and I would say yes and yes to your question about a new data management solution. And then your SHOP program, those look like valid VISTA projects. If you want to send me a little bit more information and email me, we can chat about that via email, but from what I'm seeing here, the answer is yes. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, sounds good. Okay, any more questions? And this won't be your last opportunity to ask questions. You could certainly call or email over the course of the next 2 weeks. What I would prefer you not do is call or email the day before the application is due. So try and get your questions in this week. And actually, Cindra and I are going to be out of the office on a site visit part of next week. So definitely get your questions in sooner than later so we can get back to you and respond. Okay, well, I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming in. So Sarah, I would like to thank you for delivering the bulk of this presentation and making time today and sharing with everyone about the corporation and AmeriCorps VISTA. And I'd like to wish everybody a good afternoon and have a lovely rest of the day. And thank you for being our guinea pigs in our first Zoom webinar. Bye.